Hello, friends. It's Jenny Jackson with Roots and Branches coming to you to talk a little bit about stress and security and the Enneagram. What I want to do over the next little bit of time today, I want to just talk to you guys a little bit about what I even mean when I say stress and security in your Enneagram number. In case you're new to the Enneagram or would just like a refresher, we'll cover that a little bit today just to set that up. And then over the next couple of days, I want to take just some chunks of time to go through what each individual number might be experiencing. And in particular, kind of in light of what's going on right now in the middle of this pandemic, how your stress numbers and security numbers might show up for you. So we're going to do that in chunks. I will have a day where I will go over the heart triad, the 2s, 3s, and 4s. Have a day where I go over the head triad, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. And then a day when I go over the gut or body triad of 8, 9, and 1. So we'll do manageable little bites, and these videos will be available on our Roots and Branches Facebook page. So if you miss them and you want to go back, you can check them out. If you realize like, oh gosh, my spouse or my child or somebody is such and such number and I'd really like to figure out what's going on with them, you can always pop back on and take a look at it. So just to talk to you guys a little bit, every Enneagram number has a number that they move towards in stress and a number that they move towards in security. So we have our core number, and that doesn't change. But in stressful conditions or secure conditions, we will reach out across and grab some characteristics of these other numbers. The number that you go to in stress, under stressful conditions, and I look at conditions a little bit like, sort of like, what are you marinating in right now? Like, what are you swimming in? That's my best understanding of how to understand what, stressful or secure conditions mean. When you go towards your stress number, that stress number is often called the number of disintegration in Enneagram speak, and meaning that when things are stressful for you, you take on characteristics, maybe healthy, maybe unhealthy, of that number. I really like Suzanne Stabile's description of the stress number as the number that takes care of you. And that means that when you are going to that stress number, even if you're going to healthy or unhealthy characteristics of that number, is really meeting a need for you somehow. Maybe not in the healthiest way, that depends, but it is meeting a need. It's the number that cares for you. The number that you go to in security is sometimes referred to as your number of integration. Meaning, in times of security, you take on the characteristics, again, it could be healthy or unhealthy, and we'll get to that, of that number. I love Suzanne Stabile's description here as the number that grows you. That security number is the number that really contributes in a lot of ways to our wholeness. It's important to add that even as you take on qualities or pull from your stress or security number, you're still maintaining your core number. You're still the number that you are. You're maintaining the core motivations of your number. And remember, your identity or the number that your Enneagram number is based off of your motivations, not necessarily behaviors. So even as you reach across to your stress number or to your security number, you're still having the same core motivations of your Enneagram number. Your behaviors might look a little different. Your behaviors might look like that stress number or that security number, but your core motivation is the same. I was reminded of this recently from a teaching from my friend David Bell over at Enneagram Insights, and I just think it's so important to remember that difference. There is a misconception that going to your stress number means only taking on negative characteristics or the low side of that number, and that going to your secure number means only like good things. And that's not necessarily true. If you're experiencing stressful conditions, you might reach across to your stress number and pull on either the healthy, the high side, or the unhealthy, the low side characteristics of your stress number. So it's not necessarily true that if you're in stress, you're only taking on the negative sides. If you are under secure conditions, there's a misunderstanding that when you reach across to that secure number, you're only taking on like the high side or the positive characteristics of your secure number. And that's not necessarily true either. It can be either. So it's just important to remember that. And this might make a little more sense if I give you an example. So I will be giving examples of every number over the next couple of days or week or so, let's be honest. But for today, I will tell you what goes on for me because I can speak to being a 4 easier than anything else, and that might help you understand. So as a 4, in security, I'm going to integrate to 1. So 1 is the number that grows me. It's the number that brings me more wholeness and health. And I would disintegrate or go to reach across to the number 2 in stress. So in times of security, when my conditions are secure, and even though we're in the middle of this global crisis, in some ways, conditions may be secure for you in a way that they aren't always. So while this big pandemic is going on all around us, if you're tucked away at home in an environment that feels secure to you, you may find, you're surrounded by secure relationships, you may find that you're going to your secure number. Or if things are not so secure and pleasant where you are sheltering in place right now, then maybe you might be going to your stress number. So for me as a 4, if I go to 1 in security, those are beautiful days. Those are beautiful days. If you're familiar with 4s and you're familiar with 1s, you'll understand why I love those days so much. They are good days. I am productive. I am strategic. There's like this continuous quality improvement system that's in full gear. Stuff gets done. It's beautiful. It's something to behold for me as a doing repressed 4 to suddenly have get out of my feelings and into actions. So and that's what happens if I'm going to the healthy side of 1. Now, if I'm not in such a healthy place in my core number and I'm going to 1 in security, I can take on some of the negative characteristics. I can become hypercritical, some of the negative characteristics of a 1. I notice that I start to expect everybody to live up to sort of this new world order, this organized way that we're going to do things and get things accomplished. And I can get kind of resentful that everybody else isn't doing what I'm doing and doing it the way that I think that they should be doing it. I would imagine that's probably confusing to my kids who sometimes see the behaviors of a withdrawing 4 that maybe isn't so productive all the time visually, and what they can see. And then if I go to this 1 space where suddenly I'm things are happening, but they're probably very confused. Little Jekyll and Hyde there. Okay, so going on with the example, as a 4, in stressful conditions, I'm going to go to 2. I'm going to reach over and take on some of those 2 characteristics. And if I'm in an unhealthy place when I do that, it can start to look like the low side of 2. It can be a lot of maybe unconscious giving to get, let me serve you so you will love me characteristics, feeling resentful that people aren't reciprocating that. So it can spiral into an unhealthy place when I'm in that 2 space on the low side of 2. It can look like really overextending and falling asleep to my own needs and opinions and thoughts and feelings in the effort to connect with somebody else. But under stressful conditions, I can also go to the high side of 2, the healthy 2. And that is such a great place for a 4 to go as well, because I begin to notice the needs and the feelings of the people around me. I can kind of kick into doing some positive things. I get out of my own head and heart space, and I'm able to serve and tend to others, which is a really healthy place for a 2 to be. Some interesting teaching I heard fairly recently from Jerome Wagner. suggest that we can call on both of our numbers of stress and security, or that we have the invitation to, I guess I should say. We will innately, without thinking, as a 4, I will innately move towards 2 in stress and move towards 1 in security. But there's also the invitation to stop in a situation and ask ourselves, so what would my secure number offer me right now? I'm in this space, I'm in this whatever kind of way I'm in here as a 4, and I wonder what 1 would tell me or what 1 would invite me to. And if I think about it that way, I can sort of opt into some of those helpful behaviors. And similarly, I can say, gosh, I wonder what I wonder what that 2 number that I go to in stress would have to offer me today, and what are the healthy parts of 2 that I can go to and that I can maybe apply or adopt or try to integrate. So that's kind of the basics of how our stress numbers and security numbers make sense. If that's confusing, I'm happy to answer any questions. And then what I'm just going to do, again, like I said, is, when I pop back up on here next, it's going to be to go over what the 2s, 3s, and 4s might be doing in their stress and secure numbers, and then the 5s, 6s, and 7s, and then the 8, 9s, and 1s. So I hope that will be helpful to you guys. It's interesting. I have heard people say that people have looked a little different during this pandemic to them. Like somebody's behavior seems very unlike their normal behavior, or they don't seem like themselves. And I think it would be very interesting and helpful to kind of figure out, gosh, are they going to a stress number or a secure number? Like me as in that 1 space does not look like me when I'm in my 4 space. So, just an opportunity for a little self-compassion and compassion for everybody else. I'll say it again. I think this is a great time for some non-judgmental self-observation, just looking at what we are doing and feeling and thinking and experiencing, and just paying attention. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's not a call to action per se, but just a chance for some noticing that might be helpful. Thanks for popping on here today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bless you in your day today.